Hello and welcome to Catholic Unscripted. I'm Catherine Bennett.
And I'm Mark Lambert.
And Gavin can't be with us tonight, but joining us instead is my friend and Chartres Pilgrimage expert, Mr James Windsor. You're very welcome.
Nice to be on here.
Good. So James, you were our chapter leader. James attends my parish, or I might say I attend James's parish, or we both attend a local London parish that celebrates the Tridentine Latin Mass as well as the Novus Ordo. It's a wonderfully thriving South London parish. And James, you led our chapter at the pilgrimage, which we have just arrived home from. We are a day home from that pilgrimage. And you just told me before we recorded that this is your 20th. So when I say expert, I mean it. It was my first. So we've got somebody who's in the know here. How are you feeling?
Still feeling a little bit fatigued, but my feet are in better shape than they've ever been before from a Chartres pilgrimage. So I'm quite chuffed by that. But yeah, I could do with some sleep.
Yeah. So I thought the best thing to do would be to get you to do a recording at 8 o'clock at night on the day after. The strange thing is my feet are in good condition. They're fine. I don't know. I tell you what the top tip is from me, 10-year-old Puma trainers. Never mind all this hiking boots business. So there you go. My knees, my hips, not so much. But the feet, they're in good condition. Well, James, we've asked you to come on because we have had a number of people contacting us. I was doing a few live recordings, as you know, from our trek from Paris, France to Chartres, which is over 70 miles. Was it around 70 miles?
70 miles in 2.5 days.
70 miles in 2.5 days. And I was doing some broadcasts and a few people were tuning in. Thank you very much to those of you who did, and commenting and supporting us and joining us in prayer. But there were also some practical questions and some questions about the history of the pilgrimage. So we thought, rather than try and tackle those ourselves, not being expert as you are, we'd bring you in to answer those questions. So all of you watching at home, we have a number of you joining us now and a few more to arrive. I'd like you to get your questions in the comments, please, and we will bring them up on screen. Any questions at all that you have, now is your chance. If you have never heard of the Chartres pilgrimage and think, what is she talking about? What is this? What's it all about? When was it established? What is the history of it? Ask those questions. If you want to know some practical things about going on the pilgrimage, ask those questions. So fire away in the comments. And while we're waiting for your comments and questions, I'm going to just show you a little brief snippet, which Michael Matt, he was behind us, wasn't he, James? A couple of chapters?
Chapter right behind. Yeah, chapter right behind us.
Right behind us, yeah. Michael Matt was in the American chapter just behind us and had done a number of recordings which he shared on his social media. So while your questions come in, let's take a quick look at some footage that Michael Matt took. Here we go.
That Christ is the King of my life. It means that I am never ashamed to confess Christ and the truth of the Catholic faith. It means observing God's commandments with the help of His grace, purity of soul and chastity of body, mutual forgiveness and tireless charity towards our neighbor. Même s'il y a tant de progrès technologiques aujourd'hui et la fraternité humaine pour la paix mondiale, si le Christ ne règne pas en tant que roi de nos familles et de nos pays, alors notre monde manque de vraie beauté spirituelle. Alors, that Christ is the King of my life.
Right, I nearly removed the wrong thing there. Let's remove that. There we are. So a lovely snippet there from Michael Matt. Who was that, Mark? Can you guess? Guess the bishop.
Schneijder.
Indeed. Yeah, Bishop Schneijder there. and you could see the cameras spanning around and seeing the crowds. There's so many. How many this year, James, was it?
There were 20,000 people walking, and so at that mass there would have been around about 30,000 people, because everyone attends the mass on Sunday, including all of the support crews, the logistic teams. Everyone goes to that mass, so it would have been about 30,000 at mass.
And was the family chapter there as well?
They were all there as well. Yeah, family, the children, the adult chapters, both columns of adult chapters this year. So yeah, it's an impressive mass. The aerial shots are just crazy at how many people are there.
Yeah, actually, I'm going to see if I can bring up an aerial shot in a minute. I'll see if I can set that up. Because the French TV station, which is the equivalent of the BBC, broadcast the pilgrimage for the 2nd year running, didn't it?
It did, yes. So last year they, I think it's got to the point where even the state media in France just can't ignore it. There's so much disruption as you walk out of Paris, with a column that is, 2 hours from front to back. So you can imagine all the roads are just sort of in deadlock. For that whole 2 hour period. So it's got to the point where they just can't ignore it either. So last year they broadcast the mass live with a little bit of a commentary, and they've done the same again this year. Brilliant.
There's no hiding it, escaping it, or ignoring it. That's wonderful. Right, I'm going to grab some comments from the viewers. Mark, why don't you start us off? You haven't walked the Chartres Pilgrimage, have you, Mark Lambert?
No, I haven't. No, I've been numerous people have tried to bully me into it over the years, but I've managed to find an excuse not to do it on every occasion.
No more excuses, Lambert. I'm coming for you. You're coming on next year. Look, James has done 20. So why don't you kick us off with any questions that you have about the pilgrimage while I see if I can find that lovely aerial shot.
Well, I was just looking at like there's someone here really easy, like there's some really simple things. Someone has asked here. Let me just see. Look, this one here, for example, just join this. Would love to do it next year. Please post info on how to join. So how do you join, James? How do you get involved?
So most countries have their own sort of traditional groups. So like you just showed the video of Michael Matt. He organises this thing called Remnant Tours. So you can join up through that. There's other American chapters. Here in the UK, I can share with Katherine the link to the organisers of the chapters that I'm part of. But there are, again, other UK, there's a Scottish group, there used to be a Welsh group as well. So there's multiple different ways that you can sign up through whichever country you're watching from.
Used to be a Welsh group. What's up in the Welsh?
Well, the thing with all of these things is you need someone that's actually willing to do a lot of organisational work.
Yeah, it's difficult to manage that. What's that you've got, Mark? Another one?
Well, I was just going to say, James, if you went online and searched for Chartres Tour, like Chartres Pilgrimage, would you be able to find your way to your local group from there?
Quite possibly. I don't know, because I just know where to go because I've been doing it for 20 years. I don't know. Yeah, I should. What we have to do, Katherine, is just put a link on your channel of the website or the details if you want to sign up through the UK, and then we can post the link to Notre Dame de Chrétienté, which is the actual organisation that runs it, and there's a little button to translate their website into English and Spanish as well, so you can see the different multiple routes that you can book through them. I believe you can get day passes for, I think, either the Sunday or the Monday.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, I signed up. When I can't remember when. So it's the same time every year, isn't it? It's Pentecost, which
Pentecost.
The actual date will vary, but it's always Pentecost weekend. And I registered a little late, actually, so I missed the coach, but I was still able to go. Maybe it'd be worth talking through, especially for those watching in Britain. I don't know if it works the same everywhere. It's you're registering to take part in the pilgrimage, but then there's a separate registration. Am I right, for how you get the group that you go with, the chapter that you go with?
Yeah, so you first need to find a chapter that you're going to go with and register with that chapter. And they will book you onto their list. And then as you get closer to the time, you'll then need to book through Notre Dame de Chrétienté, and they reconcile your name that's on a chapter list against your booking, and make sure that they're only issuing tickets to those people that are actually coming. Because what was happening in the past is you might find a group saying, well, I think I'm going to get 50 people coming with me, so I'm just going to buy 50 tickets. And then they only sell 40. And so that means 10 tickets are just not sold. And that's 10 less people, because it's always oversubscribed. Like this year, they had 1,000 people in the waiting list, waiting for people to drop out. So they're trying to control that and make you book through 2 different routes.
Would they just make it bigger next year, James, if there's more people?
So
it's massively bigger now, isn't it, than it was sort of 10 years ago?
So what the organizer for the foreigners, the étrangers, this year was a trial run of 2 columns. So they had a small adult column and then the main column, and it was and several different campsites, and that was a trial run for what they're going to do next year, which has been advertised that they expect 30,000 people to be allowed to walk next year, and they're going to have 2 columns of around about 15,000 in each column. Wow. So instead of 1 column coming out of Paris, there's going to be 2 columns following 2 different routes, winding their way to each campsite each day. So it's going to be incredible next year. So there's going to be a massive extra capacity.
And room for Mark, Lambert?
Stop having a go at me. I'm sure I've got something very important to do.
Yeah, you're busy next Pentecost weekend, aren't you?
Walking 100 miles across the French.
You're not walking from Chartres to Paris, are you?
If they put some nice restaurant stops and a 5-star hotel in the middle.
Now, Mark, well, listen. We're here today to talk with James about any questions you've got about the Chartres Pilgrimage, but we will be back, I think, Friday. Look out on Friday, because we're going to be meeting with Gavin, who can't be with us today because he's travelling. But and we will talk more generally about my experience and how I found it, and the kind of theological and spiritual sense of the pilgrimage, and dive into that a bit more deeply. But today is about questions you have that you may have about the Chartres Pilgrimage, about how to attend, what the history of it is, why people do it, where it takes place, and so on. So do keep your questions coming. If you've just joined us, we're here with Mr James Windsor, my friend from church. He's a senior altar server at the Tridentine Latin Mass, and has been going to Chartres on the pilgrimage for 20 years. This year was his 20th year, and he was our chapter leader. And I must say, James carried us along beautifully in song and prayer. And my eldest daughter, I told you, said, as she left, because she had to hurry away for a train, she said, that was really, really difficult. But James was fantastic, because he just prayed and sung and kept our spirits going and kept us walking. So kudos to you. Well done, and thank you.
I was actually doing it for me. I needed to keep the singing up to inspire me to continue.
You do have to, don't you?
That's very kind. Yeah, I mean, this was my first time as a chapter leader, and it was nice to be in control, so that when you were feeling down in spirits, so some people keep their spirits up just through casual chit chat, etc., and that keeps them going and everything. And there's no doubt about it. It's nice to see people that you haven't seen for a year and have a little talk. But for me personally, it doesn't stop you from being distracted by the aches and pains of the fatigue and you can, if you don't have the prayerful sort of songs and the rosaries, personally I start to struggle and start to get really tired. So it was nice being in control of my own chapter, so that when I was feeling a little bit down, and be like, right, okay, well, let's sing another rosary, let's have another meditation, let's sing some hymns from our book, or even some fun songs like Rule Britannia and Land of Hope and Glory and everything. So yeah, it's really trying to keep those spirits high and that motivation up.
Yeah, I must say that was wonderful. You've said about that, praying the rosary, which was beautiful, and also moments of, well, I don't know if it was ever entirely silent, but I spent some of the time walking solitary, and I thought there's not enough of this in my life, especially the kind of work I do. You know, we're always surrounded by noise and things coming at us, and so to have that solitary time, that time just to walk and reflect and to pray and then join in with the prayers. If there's no sense that you have to do, you're walking, you can join in if you feel you're able to join in, or just walk and pray quietly and contemplate. And there were a number of priests with us. There's a priest with every chapter, is that right? Attached to every chapter?
I don't know. That's
maybe not.
Maybe not as many as that. So
yeah,
it's some of the French chapters find it quite hard to find priests, and same with some of the other foreign chapters, because there's not that many old rite priests, and of course if you're bringing them all to Chartres, then who's saying their masses back in their own country? So what happens is when the priests register to come, they're asked lots of questions around how many languages can they speak fluently, and if you have, like we had a priest with us this year, an FSSP priest who could speak 6 languages fluently, and as a result of that, we only saw him on the last day, because he was one day he was walking, well, one morning he was walking with the Portuguese, then he was walking with the Italians, and the Spanish, and then finally the last day we actually got the priest that we brought with us. So yeah, so they're really struggling for priests, even though there's like I think there's 300 religious clergy, let's put it that way. So when you add up all the seminarians, deacons, etc., and the priests, there's about 300 in total.
Yeah. Well, we've got a question here asking about the history, James. If you can give us the history of the pilgrimage, what's the origin?
So the pilgrimage that we're walking on, organised by Notre Dame de Chrétienté, started 43 years ago, and it was a group of French Catholics. I think there was about 10 or so on the first walk, and they were all quite sort of senior in terms of their whatever job and profession they were in, and that core group have been running this for 43 years, and because of their seniority, they have the ability to organize the logistics quite well. So they know that the chief of police, etc., is on the board of Notre Dame de Chrétienté, the mayor of Chartres, etc. So when you have this network of authority across France, that enables you to take 20,000 people and close roads and walk across footpaths, etc. So that element started 43 years ago, but the pilgrimage itself originally started, as I understand, back in the 12th century, and it was essentially students would walk this in order to gain their degrees from a lot of the sort of significant universities in Europe, and back then they would do it in about a week. To walk that 70 miles, but all along they would be stopping at well, they used to be stopping at shrines and churches, and had this very prayerful spiritual side of it, and staying there in those places for a few nights, etc. So, but and by the time you got to Chartres, you were then awarded your degree, whatever that might have been in.
That's wonderful. And you were telling me while we were over there about the history of Chartres. So am I right? We've got here. I can't remember the exact date, but King someone. I want to call him King someone the Bald. Here's where my history shows itself up. Has brought Our Lady's veil, believed to be the veil of Our Lady, to Chartres, and this is why people began walking from around Europe to Chartres to this relic. Is that, and actually you were telling me this is actually a reliquary, that to understand Chartres in that way?
Yeah, so the religious site of Chartres dates a lot older than the 800, the year 800, when Charlemagne brought the veil. The actual site of Chartres is an old Druid temple, pagan site, for want of a better term, and they worshipped the Virgin who would conceive. That's the statue they had. And at that site, they offered sacrifice to the mother of the god yet to be born. And so when Christianity was first spreading across France, they came across this group, and it was a happy bond of Catholicism. And the crypt of Chartres Cathedral is the actual site of that Druid temple. And recently they did some archaeology in the surrounding grounds, and they found all sorts of Druid artifacts that date to those Druid times. So there's truth in this sort of a bit of history. But the cathedral that you see there, I think the veil of Our Lady came to the site in about 857. The Byzantine empress gave the veil to Charlemagne, who brought it to Chartres, and the cathedral was built to house the Our Lady's veil. So it's like a reliquary for the veil itself. And as I understand, and again, this is all sort of merging of different stories, but the veil itself was also the swaddling clothes. So Our Lady took off her veil, wrapped baby Jesus in her veil. So it's quite connected, and it's survived all sorts of fires. The French Revolution, they chopped up the veil, but two quite significant pieces still exist, and they're housed in Chartres Cathedral.
Gosh. And we've got a few more questions coming in now from our viewers. If you've just joined us, we're here with my friend and expert, Chartres Pilgrimage expert, James Windsor, Mr James Windsor, because we are just back, one day, 24 hours back from our 2.5-day very quick walk, encouraged gently by James in our chapter. And when I say encouraged gently, at no point did he say, hurry up, close the gap, come on. You've got to close the gap. So we've got a little history there. I did read also Charles Pilgrimage. I'm pronouncing his name wrong, I'm sure. No complaints, please. You're not allowed to complain to a woman who's just walked from Paris to Chartres in 2.5 days, who walked while he and was praying for his son, for healing for his son. And when he arrived at Chartres, his son was healed, and he was I think he wasn't a Catholic, bit of a socialist. And then as a consequence of that walk, this is in the 20th century now, which when a sort of renewal of this pilgrimage came about, he said he walked Chartres and his son was healed. So then that inspired maybe another surge in interest, as there is today. It probably goes through periods where it gains interest. So let's go to more of your questions. If you've joined us, please, you're here to ask questions. And at the end, look at this, check this out. You can't ask for more than this. We have a signed postcard signed by Mark Lambert, Gavin Ashenden, and me, and a night and day fridge magnet. James, you're not allowed to have this. I know you must be tempted because you might not have had time to pick one up yourself. Which we will give to the person who can answer the question we will pose based on some of the answers James is giving a little later, shortly in the conversation. But let's go to another question from our viewers. Mark, have you picked up on any while I've been enjoying?
Well, you've been chatting
sorry.
Yeah, well, so
we got one about electricity. Yeah,
and that's taken us so long to answer. Someone else has answered that now.
Oh, well, come on. Is there electricity in the camp? So could you charge an off-road wheelchair?
Obviously not.
There's electricity in the camp to power the lights and different pumps, but not for individuals to plug into.
There's probably electricity in the business class where the priests are, but not for...
No, there's not even there.
Did you see, this is Father Steve Fleming. He's a friend of mine.
It's
good to see he's watching. Hi, Father Steve. How are you? And he, so do you want to answer that one?
Yeah, we might find repeat questions because people are tuning in at different times.
You walk in what's called chapters, and that's a group of around about, the French like to target about 30 people in a chapter, but some chapters get to about 50 inside, but they don't want them to get any bigger because it's hard for you to have to be able to focus in on the meditation. So there's a set theme to each year and a set series of meditations that the chapter leaders need to read out across the 3 days. So it's really important that those get read so that everyone can embrace the theme of the pilgrimage for that particular year.
And here we have, do you think they would organise a special chapter for old OAPs, pilgrims who would like to walk shorter distances, say 10 miles a day?
So what Notre Dame de Chrétienté do is they encourage what they call the guardian angels. So anyone who's not able to actually walk the full 70-mile route is they provide you with all the meditations, all of the readings, links to the masses, so you can watch at home and pray along for the pilgrims, and the pilgrims are praying for you as well. So there's a nice little thing. The alternative is also to walk the family chapter, which does about half, maybe a little less than half the distance that the adult chapters do.
Brilliant. We've got a question here from Pat Klaus. I'm not totally sure, Pat, I'm afraid, what you're asking. You've said, does someone take your tents? I'm not sure if you're asking, are we given tents or do we need to bring tents? So can you tell us about the sleeping arrangements, James?
So there are quite large communal tents where for about, I think they allocate about 30 to 35 people in these huge scout tents, for want of a better term. Certain people, I believe you're allowed to bring your own tent. It is restricted for the foreign chapters because having 20,000 people in tents is just logistically it's not possible. So there's some restrictions on certain foreign chapters, but everyone sleeps in these big communal tents. And what happens each day is you carry a day bag with your snacks and food and water for that particular day walk. Everything else, all your clothes for the other 2 days, your sleeping bag, if you've got a tent, food for the other days, all goes into a big lorry and it meets you at the other end when you get to the next stop. So you're only ever carrying what you need for that particular day of walking.
Yeah, and a little tip from a first timer. James didn't make this mistake because it's his 20th time. I overpacked my rucksack. So I was, the weird thing is, James, I was thinking of replicating as best I could meals at home, and I was there with my 2 daughters. So I was busy stuffing in, like 10 bananas and oranges and bags of nuts and cheese and cheese and wine and caviar. No, that's a joke. I wasn't langoustine. No, so I was putting food in, and the very strange thing is, and a few people said this, you don't get hungry. I don't know about you. I didn't actually feel hungry, and yet you're walking all day, 12 hours a day. And so if I were to do it again, and I please God I can, I would massively reduce the amount of food I put in my day rucksack, because actually any extra weight you want to reduce anyway, because it starts to feel very heavy, doesn't it?
It does, yeah. So they provide you with bread and water, and on the first stop on the first day, you get some apples if you're lucky, if you're not at the back and it's run out. But otherwise, at lunch they provide you with bread. So I tend to bring what I call toothpaste cheese, just to make the bread a little bit more moist, which is the Primula cheese. I'm sure there's other toothpaste cheeses. And some salami.
Other toothpaste.
It's available.
Yeah, other toothpaste cheeses are available if you're interested. James is trying to foist his toothpaste cheese onto me, and he shared it around, and it was most welcome, because you made little pizza bread rolls so listen to the expert, don't do as I did and start packing too much food. Talking of stops, we have a question here. How far apart are the rest stops? Good question.
The shortest stretch you walk is around about an hour and 20 minutes, but generally you're walking for about an hour and 30, hour and 40 between one stop and the next one. So that's and the distance in that time is around about 7 to 8 kilometers that you're walking in that particular stretch. There's the odd stretch, like the one out of Paris. It's like 2.5 hours, mainly because of stopping and starting as you're trying to cross all the major roads, where it gets quite tiring and quite hard, because as soon as the police let you go and cross the road, you need to then try and catch up with the chapter that's ahead of you, so that the column doesn't overstretch itself. And part of the agreement that the pilgrimage organisers have with the authorities is everyone must be into the camp before dark, and that gets really difficult logistically when your column is like 2 hours long from start to finish.
I found that the breaks, I'll speak as a woman now, it's quite difficult as well having short rest breaks. There are facilities available, but some of the breaks were billed as 10 to 15 minutes. But the truth is, James, we don't always get that, do we? It can just be a couple of minutes and then you have to up and move. There's no, you can't sort of just loll about and take your time.
Yeah, so because of that requirement to get everyone into camp, as soon as some chapters start slipping back, the ones as we were at the middle, you would, if you're lucky, you might get a minute break, and you can imagine the ones at the back of the column might not have a break at all, and they carry on walking because they have to keep ahead of time, and that gets really challenging when you're dealing with so many people crossing roads, etc. And any patches of mud in the woods and everything, you can imagine the whole the chapter splits. No one wants to walk through the boggy area in the middle, and all of that just starts to slow down the whole column. It's becoming quite a logistical challenge. I don't know how they managed to do it. It's unbelievable, really.
Well, listen, if you're just tuning in, we're here with Mr James Windsor, who's a friend of mine from church and senior server at the Tridentine Latin Mass, and is a Chartres Pilgrimage expert. He's been doing this for 20 years, and this was his 20th pilgrimage. And although we're answering some of your questions, managing your expectations, and it sounds quite difficult, it is quite difficult, but certainly I know James will want to say, as I do, it's a wonderful experience. Do it if you can. obviously try and find out as much about it as you can and be aware of what to expect as far as possible. But it's both wonderful and really challenging, really difficult. But I would recommend it and do it again. You know, as I said, please God, if I'm able to, I'll be doing it next year. So all of these things are a challenge, but it's amazing. And we're going to put together a little video of some of the highlights for our channel and then have another conversation with Gavin about it on Friday. But today is very much focused on practical questions or history questions about the pilgrimage. So we have James for just a little bit longer before we let him go to prepare for no doubt lots of busy things in your life, but I've dragged him in here a day after our return from that pilgrimage to answer these questions. So another question about food. There is food also when you arrive in the evening, so do not fear. There's some soup and bread as well as some things on the stops. So let me just take a look at these. Mark, jump in.
Katherine. Well, someone's asking what happens if you have knee pain suddenly.
So all the way along the route, you have the simply amazing Knights of Malta, which for us over in the UK, that's like the St. John's ambulance, and they are absolutely brilliant and will nurse your aches and pains, do whatever's needed to either keep you walking or get you transport to the next campsite if you can't walk any further that particular day. So it's really well organised and they look after people.
There's another one here from TK O'Rourke that says, does one train for the pilgrimage? I would have thought it'd be sensible. No one's going to make you, are they? But if you don't, it's on you.
Yeah, so Katherine and I were doing little practice walks to church on every Sunday. There's a 2-hour walk, so just keeps it going. It's really hard to practice for a day's walk. So that the first day of Chartres was a 28-mile walk. It's really hard to practice for that, but I think for me personally, I think my sort of recommendation to Katherine was get into a habit of being able to walk a 2-hour stretch, because that's the sort of top end of what's normally required. And so when you leave the rest point and I would say, right, okay, next stop's in an hour and 40 minutes, you can actually picture that and you think, oh, right, okay, well, that's the walk I do to mass on a Sunday morning. Okay, I can do that. I can cope with that. That's manageable. But when you don't have that visualization of how long and how far a 2-hour walk is, it really becomes quite mentally sort of draining as opposed to just the physical draining. And you've got to stay strong in the mind to be able to complete this. It's not an easy feat, not by any means.
No, it's really not. We've just got a comment here rather than a question. The mass showed that communion can be distributed in a dignified manner on the tongue to kneeling communicants at an outdoor mass, because we do hear this quite a bit, don't we? And questions over the distribution of communion, but the mass was just the outdoor mass. I mean, tell us something about that, James, and your experiences of those wonderful outdoor masses during the pilgrimages.
Well, just to answer that particular question, so all of the masses are the traditional Roman mass according to the rubrics of 1962, and therefore Holy Communion at a mass like that, according to the rubrics, should only be distributed kneeling and on the tongue. And the only exception to that is if you're unable to kneel, but otherwise it is always on the tongue at a traditional rite mass, because you have to follow the rules as they were in 1962. But the masses are incredible in that you get, as you saw on that clip from Michael Matt, you've got 30,000 people all at that mass with Bishop Schneijder, and everyone reverent, everyone kneeling there. It's an incredible experience, and silent, etc. It's a beautiful thing to experience.
Never never ashamed to confess Christ and the truth of the Catholic faith. It means observing
Along the
God's
side
commandments with the help of His grace, purity of soul.
I'll just bring that down. Along the side there, you have priests who are offering confession, people going to confession during the Mass. And there you saw Bishop Schneijder saying the outdoor Mass, as James said. Those of you that didn't join us at the beginning will have missed that. That's a little clip from Michael Matt's recent trip to Chartres, because he was doing some streaming as well. So I'm sure you follow. If you don't, do check out Michael Matt of Remnant TV. So, right. Any last questions before we lose this wonderful expert and friend of mine, Mr. James Windsor, and before I ask him about some spin-off pilgrimages that have been inspired by Chartres? Any last questions from you? One here. Has James ever done the LMS pilgrimage from Ely to Walsingham? So that's a nice segue into other pilgrimages.
Yeah, so I did Ely to Walsingham for the first time last year, but with an extra stretch from London to Ely to then on to Walsingham. And I would say the Ely to Walsingham bit compares really well to Chartres. It's another 2.5 day walk. It is a lot easier. So because you're walking across the fens, it's pretty much all flat, the Ely to Walsingham stretch. So it's a lot less draining than some of the uphills that you've got at Chartres. But yeah, this year I'm running the stretch from London to Walsingham again. So from the Latin Mass Society website, you can tick the different extensions, and there's a London extension. So you're welcome to sign up to that, and you'll see me, and I'll be your chapter leader on that stretch. But the LMS pilgrimage Ely to Walsingham is just one of a number that have been modelled on Chartres. So you have the 2 shrines pilgrimage in Scotland. You have the pilgrimage to Covadonga in Spain. There's the pilgrimage to Our Lady of Lewisham in Australia, in Sydney. There's a new one starting up called Our Lady of Christendom, which is in Tewkesbury. This year is going to be the first year we're going to walk from Tewkesbury Abbey to Evesham Abbey, but next year it's going to be modelled on a 2.5 day walk. And there's another one in Argentina, and there's other ones all popping up, all inspired by Chartres, and it's quite incredible. And they're all based around the traditional Mass, traditional penance, all the meditations. There's always a theme to the pilgrimage that everyone is inspired to walk behind. So it's absolutely incredible how it's all just going literally global.
Yeah, it really is. And some people do have a view of tradition. It's old-fashioned. It's a question of old versus new, out with the old, in with the new, as if it's something for the dying out. But the Chartres pilgrimage, the average age is something like 20, isn't it? It's
20 to 25 is the average age. I mean, we were joking on the coach back how myself and a few other peoples are just starting to feel old going on this now, and I don't particularly think I'm old, but then when you look around you on this Chartres pilgrimage, you're just like, there's just kids running around everywhere, So it's incredible, the revival of the faith.
Yeah, it's so inspiring. It's wonderful to see and to be there with, like you. I mean, I think you're younger than me. I certainly felt on the older side, shall we say, on the older side, and it was wonderful for my daughters to be there and to see so many young people. It's helpful for them. It's inspiring for them to see their fellow young folk, and I'm hoping my sons will join us next year. That's the plan. Marred by exams this year. So last promotion of our Chartres pilgrimage signed postcard. Gavin Ashenden, Mark Lambert, myself, And yeah, fridge magnet, because everyone wants a fridge magnet. I'm going to ask you a question based on something James said in just a moment when we wrap up. But we've just got a couple more. If you've just got 10 more minutes, if you've just got a few more minutes with us, James, because we have another couple and then we'll have to close. So last chance for questions. Are all the pilgrimages that you just mentioned Latin Mass ones? I think you said they are, yes.
They are, yes.
Yeah. And one about Bishop Schneijder. Did Bishop Schneijder do the whole walk to Chartres?
No, he didn't. No. He was there for the Mass. He said the Mass on Sunday, and he was there at the Mass in Chartres on Monday, and I saw him saying saw him right at the end of his Mass in Chartres on Tuesday, where he said a low Mass before. I think he's headed over to the UK here for a conference at the weekend. So yeah.
Yeah. There was a lovely Mass for the English at the end of the pilgrimage, wasn't there?
Yeah. So there's if you come on the coach with the English pilgrims, we always stay over on Monday evening to relax after 2.5 days of walking, and then on Tuesday morning we traditionally always have a Mass in the crypt, so in that original shrine of Chartres. This year, unfortunately, that wasn't permitted, so we had Masses. Everyone had Masses one after the other in a church just down the road from the cathedral, St. Aignan. Forgive me for my pronunciation. I believe it's a fraternity of St. Peter Church, and there were Masses going on from about 6 in the morning all the way through until 1 in the afternoon on the main altar and all of the side altars. And what you're showing there is Bishop Schneijder saying his 9 a.m. Mass in that church, and it was a stunning church, absolutely beautiful. And we had our sung Mass at 10:15 there, which has become quite a popular one for the English-speaking pilgrims. So it's not just our chapters that go there. This year we had the Finnish and the Swedes with us. Previous years we've had the Australians with us. The Americans have joined us. So it's becoming quite a big final event of a wonderful, inspiring pilgrimage.
Yeah, and just to echo that, we have a comment here. Made the Chartres Pilgrimage in 2023. I was 62 and my church friend was 74. Best decision. Hope to bring my 2 grandsons back when they are a bit older. Glorious, certainly not glamorous. No, certainly not. Oh, thank you so much for sharing that, PW, that inspiring comment, because, we don't, as I said, this is not to put people off. Definitely, it's to recommend that you look into the Chartres Pilgrimage, that you see some of the videos that we put out, that you hear some of the things that are being said, and take part if you can. And if you can't, because not everybody will be able to, as James said, you can contact, it's the Guardian Angels. Did you say?
So if you log into the Notre Dame de Chrétienté website, there's affiliated lay group I think it's called the Guardian Angels, and if you sign up to that, if you can't do the walk, sign up to that, and they will send you all of the meditations, all of the sermons, links to the different Masses, etc. So you can actually be at home and feel part of the pilgrimage, and you're praying the same meditations that everyone on the pilgrimage is praying. So it's a really nice way of connecting to the pilgrimage.
Yeah, a couple of questions coming in, doubling up with what was asked before, because people are joining a bit later. So you can go back and watch the feed once it uploads, to do with how many were there and how to sign up. We will also put in the links below in the show notes details of how you can sign up for next year's pilgrimage. It won't be open yet, but keep an eye out. It always takes place on Pentecost weekend. So the registration details you'll look out for. And I know that a couple of people, based on the live streaming that I was doing from the pilgrimage, have already said, I'm going to start training because I really want to take part next year. And it's a good problem to have. it's oversubscribed. There's more people interested. The demand is higher than they can actually accommodate. So get in early if you're interested to go. Mark, I know, will be desperately trying to open that link as soon as he gets it. Won't you, Mark?
Yeah, I'm thinking of founding a separate group that meets in pubs at different waypoints and cheers you on as you go by.
That's the Walsingham one, isn't it?
Yeah, maybe,
That is the Walsingham one. Yeah. Pub lunches along the way.
Pub lunches, that's the way. Last little practical question about the coach. If you don't get a place on the coach, you can still attend. In fact, that's how I did it this year. I'm still part of the chapter. I was still part of James's chapter, but I had to book separately my accommodation and transportation. If I hadn't left it as late as I did, I would have been able to be part of the coach, but they have limited numbers. So you could travel and be booked in your accommodation with your chapter. But it was no hardship. It didn't really, it wasn't a problem. So it's still easy to do. The main thing is getting a place, registering for the pilgrimage itself. So thank you so much, James. Just a quick question on your other hat, as senior server. Anyone watching who might be interested to serve the Latin Mass, perhaps they've got sons or grandsons who might be interested. What's your advice about how they might go about that?
So the Latin Mass Society have regular server training days. So look up on the Latin Mass Society website, and you'll be able to join the Society of St. Tarcisius, and you'll get all the links through for where their server days are, and they're not just all in London. They're across the UK.
Yeah, so take a look at the very helpful LMS website, the Latin Mass Society. Well, I hope we've answered all your questions. If you have any further questions, you can always contact me or Mark or Gavin on info@catholicunscripted.com, and we will take your questions to James if you didn't get a chance to ask him in this show. But do go. I thoroughly recommend it. If you can, think about it, get walking, get preparing, and you won't regret it, even though it was incredibly difficult. So James said earlier that Mass on the Chartres Pilgrimage is said according to the rubrics of what year, according to the rubrics of the Mass, from what year? Answer in the comments. First to answer, you get yourself this signed postcard signed by me, Gavin Ashenden, and Mark Lambert, and you get this fridge magnet. So if you haven't got a fridge, maybe don't answer. But if you have and you want this magnet, I don't think we're not right. Oh, I'm sorry, Caitlin. Sorry, Caitlin. You were first. Finger first, but I'm sorry, Caitlin. So close. York Mum's got it. There we go. Thank you, York Mum. 1962 it was, and we'll send you this. Okay, if you would like to become a member of our channel, please do join. Please do press the join button and sign up. We'll have a number of member-only exclusive videos, and at the moment, Gavin's reading Confessions by St. Augustine. Mark's done an epic 2-hour reading of Rerum Novarum with some commentary for our members, and lots more besides. Yeah, for all you insomnia.
No, it is worth doing that.
It's really worth doing. And so for all you members, there is some exclusive content, but we'll continue to offer our content here for you, such as talking with James, so that you can find out about these wonderful initiatives. Well, James, thank you so much for joining us, for giving us that precious hour of your time, just the day after we returned from the Chartres Pilgrimage and your 20th such pilgrimage. So well done to you, and thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
No problem. I hope you'll join us again soon. And for all of you watching at home, please do like, share, subscribe, join our channel, and look out for a chat that we'll be having, me, Gavin and Mark, a bit later this week, reflecting on my experience, focusing on my experience in particular. Today has been about general questions about the pilgrimage. But for now, thank you very much for watching. God bless.